I have to say to you is that my name is Richard, and I do have a slightly strange voice, and I have to speak quite slowly, and this is because I had a horrible accident over a year ago. The details do not matter, but it affected my voice, and I could not speak for about 3 months. So my voice is on a long-term recovery. I do have to speak quite softly and slowly like this, so that I'm sure you will get used to my voice, but that's the explanation of why it's a bit strange. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about climate change. And let me just tell you what I think climate change is. It is that because of the activities of human beings on this planet, the planet is going to get warmer, and there are going to be quite serious consequences in 50 to 100 years' time. Now, I'm 63 years old, so I won't be alive in 50 to 100 years' time, but you, of course, will be certainly alive within 50 years, I hope. So this is a really important issue for younger people. And how does this relate to Quakerism? Well, some of you may know that the basic tenet of Quakerism is that there is that of God in everybody. And we won't get into any discussion at all about what that word God means. But it does mean that 6 or 5 or 6 testimonies arise from that, and they're all basically in the things in red: social justice, truth, equality, simplicity, peace, and the environment. And in a star I've highlighted the 3 that I think are most important to this whole issue of climate change. Clearly it relates to the environment, but let me say why I think it relates to equality and social justice. I think if you accept that there is going to be a problem, you have to ask how has this problem arisen? And I think there is no doubt that it has risen because of the activities of people on this planet in the last 200 years. And most of these people come from the north of the planet Earth and tend to be quite well off. And in a sense, people in this room fall into that category. If climate change really is serious, this will affect the poor on the planet. And there is a moral question that the people who have caused the problem do have an obligation to try to sort out the problem for the next generations to come. And from that, if you really believe in equality, real equality, then that also says that those that cause the problem have got to try to do something about it for those who are not so fortunate. Because there is no doubt that if climate change does happen, sea rises will be great, especially in the southern hemisphere, where there's a lot of island, very low lying, and I fear to say there will be mass migration of people in the next 50 to 100 years from the south to the north. And that's going to have huge, huge consequences. So, I'm a scientist, and throughout all of this, I believe that you cannot turn your back on science and technology, and you have to see the good thing as well. Science have done great things, and there's no doubt in my lifetime, science has done great things. It has meant that diseases which would have killed us 60 years ago when I was born do not kill you now. They can be treated caringly and lovingly by a wonderful National Health Service. The other thing I forgot to say is I have to have a lot of water for my voice. So just give me a break, please. It's better. Now my voice recovered a little bit. Now then. Okay, so there is this wonderful book, and I've got it here. It's written by a man called David Tuckett, and there is the title, and you can actually get it completely free off the internet, completely free. And you will bind it, or your parents will bind it, and there it is. And it was written in 2009, when he was a young 40-year-old. And the absolute tragedy is that he died a year ago of bowel cancer, I think. That's tragic. He rode a bicycle, as I do, and that's his face. And now we get a little bit more technical, but I'll keep this limited. He was quite sure that carbon dioxide gas is the biggest problem. Now I will qualify that and say that carbon dioxide gas is the biggest problem, but methane gas is a major secondary component. And I personally think that methane levels are just as serious potentially as carbon dioxide level. But that's getting a bit technical. And we're trying to limit the increase in Earth temperatures by about 2 degrees by the end of this century, if we possibly can. Okay, and here are some numbers. Now, scientists like myself love numbers. Okay, and I've taken all the decimal points out and I've simplified the numbers so that I can put it into your context. And here I've got the population of different countries and of the complete planet. And this is where our carbon dioxide emissions should be at in 2015. Sorry, that's where they are in 2015 now. Oh, sorry, I should say 2017. And this is the level we've got to get down to. The units do not matter. There they are if you're interested, but these are just numbers, and it's the difference between these numbers that is what's really important. So let's take the total planet. There are 7.3 billion people, roughly, on this planet. And on average, we each consume 6 units of carbon dioxide a year. Units don't matter. We've got to get that down to 1.5. That doesn't sound quite so bad, but when you look at what it means country by countries, it then becomes much darker. So we take the worst problem, which is America. America has a population of 0.32 of a billion, or 320 million. Their average consumption per person per year in these units is 23, much greater than this average figure of 6. And the Americans have got to get that 23 down to 1.5. That's a huge, huge reduction. I don't know how they're going to do it. What about good old United Kingdom? Our population is 64 million people. That's 0.06 of a billion. We are better. We consume 14 of these units per year, but we've still got to get down to 1.5. The average in Europe is almost exactly the same as Britain. India doesn't pollute very much, so currently they use one of these units. They below the average that they've got to get to. China, however, is above the average, and they've got to get down there. And that's the sort of scale. Now the absolute numbers do not really matter. It's a difference between 23 and 1.5, or 15 and 1.5. These are big, big changes. So, this is David Mackay again. The units have changed, and he's now talking particularly about us in this country. What can we do about this? So, with different units, he reckoned that on average, I think these are adults and children, use 125 units of CO2. And by law, we've got to get that down to 15 by the end of this century or thereabouts. So here are some things that the younger generation should think about. I can't tell you you've got to do this, because everybody will be in different, everybody comes from different personal circumstances. But Mackay is speaking totally generally, and he reckoned we could turn down thermostats in our centrally heated house. Not turn them off, but just turn them down. And perhaps we could wear more clothes. It's an incredibly simple solution, but completely ignored by most people in this country. And he reckoned roughly that we might make a difference or a reduction of 20 in these units of 125. About 1/6 might come down. That's a big, big change if everybody did it. Now clearly, if you're old, if you're infirm, if you're disabled, you can't do this. But as against that, there are a lot of healthy people who can do this. Okay. Again, I'm not telling anybody, children or adults, what to do. I'm just throwing out possibilities. We could modify our means of short distance transport. I think that what that really means is don't drive a car for 1 mile to get from A to B. If you can walk that distance, or you can cycle it, or you can do something else. Anything to use a car. Okay. On average, he reckoned that will get the number down by another 20. He reckons that if you became a vegetarian, and I don't know the details of this, I don't know whether that means vegan or just not eating meat. But because of a lot of our meat comes from cattle, like beef, and cattle emit an awful lot of methane, not so much CO2 but methane. And I personally believe that methane is every bit as serious a problem as CO2. If you did that, he reckoned that would get you down by 10 units. If you change all the lights in your house to LEDs, and most people are doing that in any case, he reckons the reduction is not going to be that big. Don't buy new gadget, but use older ones. And this is the big one, stop flying. Is that realistic? Does that make you say that, or does it make you say that? And there is the problem, there is the ethical problem. If we stop flying, if we've got family who live in Australia, that means we can't see them at all. Is that really the way to live our lives in the next 50 to 100 years? Some people will say yes, some people will say no. That's all I can say. I can just throw out possibilities. Now, we don't have the internet here, so ideally I click on this and we get straight to the internet, and we get a nice little 3-minute piece of Einaudi playing a piano with the picture of the Arctic behind him and Arctic ice caps collapse. And this is put out by Greenpeace as a way of saying this is what's going to happen if we don't take this issue very, very seriously. So this slide presentation will be on the Central England website within a week or so. And when you've got the internet, I do suggest you play that. It's a really interesting 3 or 4 minute clip of somebody playing the piano with a backdrop of Arctic ice caps behind. So there it all is. What are we going to do? Given that we have a problem potentially arising that I personally think is as serious as the potential for nuclear war was in the Cuban crisis, which is 60 years ago now, and is potentially as a crisis as the awful world wars that we had in the first half of the 20th century. And nobody can get away from this. This is everybody's problem. Nobody can opt out. At least healthy people can't opt out. And here are some numbers. We contribute 2% of global emissions of CO2 and methane. Okay? And yet we only constitute 1% of the world's population. Okay? So we are above average in causing the problem. And I think actually the United Kingdom is doing pretty well. I think there are issues happening, policies happening that are definitely helping it. But we can't get away from that global figure that we are causing twice as much problems as ideally we would. And my great thing is that we should concentrate much more on the demand for energy or carbon, like CO2 and methane, and not worry too much about the supply. We shouldn't be actually racking our brains, should we build this nuclear power station or that wind farm or that solar power thing. We should say, how do we use energy? Are there any ways we can really globally reduce the amount of energy that we use? Okay? So I'm a very keen cyclist, so I do an awful lot of bicycling. This accident that I told you about actually happened because I had a completely freak cycling accident a year ago and ended up in hospital. It hasn't put me off cycling. I'm back on my bike 6 months later and still do, and will do it as long as I can. But I do stress, I'm sure you all do, if you wear a bicycle, please, please, please wear a helmet. I'm sure you do. So, here are 5 reasons for cautious optimism. And these are my words, this is what I think. And if anybody here was to give this talk, the adults here, they might disagree with me, they might stress totally different things, that's fine. That's what Quakerism is about. It is about people being individual and just seeing if you can come to consensus on certain issues. So, not everybody will agree with my first point, but I personally believe that feeling guilty about the past will not get us help in the future. We are where we are and we must look forward. That's my personal opinion. All the discussion about carbon trading, I don't actually really understand what that phrase means, and I'm sure that young people here probably won't either. But basically, it's a way of one country saying to another country, you have our carbon and we'll give you some money, and then according to the statistics, we're doing quite well. My personal belief is that it's completely immoral, and it won't do anything, because this is a genuine global problem. Global means it affects all 7.3 billion people on this planet. I think people who don't believe in climate change are as good as disappeared from our television screens, thank goodness. Alas, that is not yet true of the United States and Mr. Trump. And I have to say to the adults that my belief in Mr. Trump is of such a low level that I will not call him President Trump. He's Mr. Trump. This is a bit more technical. There was another huge problem in atmospheric science over the last 50 years, which caused what we call the stratospheric ozone problem, which can cause a lot of people ultraviolet radiation to get through and cause skin problems, skin cancers. That problem was discovered about the 1980s. Policies were put in place, and all the predictions are this problem will have been solved by the end of this century. It's a great example of scientists working together with politicians, producing policies that won't have answers and results immediately. These are long-term problems. And I give full credit for a person I don't often give credit for, which was Margaret Thatcher in the late 1980s, because she did take scientists very seriously, and she pushed for global agreements in a way that I don't think any Prime Minister before her or any Prime Minister after her would have had the expertise to do. And I give Mrs. Thatcher full credit for that. And before anybody gets worried, I'm not a Tory. And the other fifth reason for altruism is that somebody may know that the cost of green energy, as I call it, whether it be solar, wind farms, is falling very, very rapidly. So we have got alternative, cheap sources of energy coming on stream. And I've said this before, if we're going to put new rules in place, it can't affect everybody. Because some people, unfortunately, are ill or disabled, and policies for a 20-year-old cannot possibly be applied to a 90-year-old. So I'm just talking generally. Let me have some more water. How's the recording going? Jolly good. So, I'm sure you're all told this at school. When you have a really hard problem to solve, break it down into bits. Are you told that? Yeah? And start with the easy bit first. And this is a huge problem that I'm talking about. So what do I think would be the easy things to solve that might have some results? So what would be easy to implement? So just say by some miracle a new political party, which I'm going to call the Quaker Green Party, got formed. And just say I was leader of it, and just say, even by some miracle, I was elected Prime Minister, and 10 Downing Street behind that door was my home and where I worked. And let's assume that I had hundreds of thousands of civil servants all engaged who would do within limits anything that I said. What would I do? Because if you believe this is the most serious problem facing personkind, and I do think that, then all your policies have to be governed by environmental issues. One or two prime ministers in the past have tried to do this, but in my opinion they failed miserably, or I see absolutely no evidence of that. Okay? And although I was, apart from Iraq, a great fan of the Blair years, I think he failed miserably in this respect, because he did make some announcement in his latter years that all policies in the department would be scrutinised to see what effect they would have on the environment. I see absolutely no evidence for that at all. He was a complete failure to me in this respect. So what would I do? Well, if we were to have a minimum working temperature, I'm not actually sure we have got that in law in this country, but if we have, it's about 17 or 18 degrees. I would pass laws to bring that down to 15 degrees and just tell people bluntly, wear more clothes. Go to charity shops, wear thicker shirts or jerseys. That's an incredibly simple thing to do, and if Mackay is right, it will have a huge effect. I would abolish Sunday trading. Now the young people will not know this, but on Sundays shops were always closed until 25 years ago, 1992. Okay? The world and this country survived up until 1992 without shops being open. If we did that, then we would reduce electricity demand in the shopping and shops by 1/7, because 1/7 would be closing shops. That's what I would do. I would somehow price domestic air travel in this country out of the market. And what do I mean by that? Young people here may not realise this, but it is remarkably cheap to travel by air in this country. I was speaking at a scientific conference in Dublin 3 weeks ago. That was quite a struggle because there were about 300 people in the audience, and it was my first time I had spoken at an international conference with my voice problem, so I had a microphone. And actually that's one of the reasons I'm wearing a tie. Not because I generally do wear ties, but because if I have to have a clip-on microphone, they clip onto a tie much easier than any jersey or shirt, and it's right below the mouth. So its effectiveness is much greater. And what we say, yes, it cost me, okay, it was Ryanair, which is perhaps an exception, it cost me £32 to return flight to Dublin from Birmingham. I was delighted, of course. It only cost me £32. But that was utterly absurd when you said the distance and crossing 50 miles of sea. If I fly to Edinburgh from Birmingham, that costs about £30 return. The train costs about £50 return. Why is that? Why does train travel cost at least twice as much as air travel? It's because of the taxation system that we've got in this country. I'm not trying to say stop flying. If you've got family in America or Australia, I'm not saying that at all. If you're going to go there, you have to fly. But in this country, and we are a pretty small island, there are alternatives to it. It's trains, and locally for small distance cycling or walking. And so that's why personally, and people may disagree with me, I'm totally in favour of HS2, HS3, HS4, right the way up to HS99 as far as I'm concerned, if this gets people out of aeroplanes on short hops within this country. I would change the law to what used to be before 1988, so that everybody attends their local school. What that means, you may be surprised to hear this in the front rows, but what it basically means is that you walk to school because it's closest, and being dropped off by mummy or daddy or granny or granddad in a car doesn't happen so much. That's what I would do. And I would provide free double glazing and roof insulation to every single domestic house in the country. Try to contain the problem so we don't waste energy. That is actually already happening to some extent. We are making good progress there. We're making no progress there. We're making some progress there. Not much there. Not much there. A little bit there. That's how I see the problem. But having said all that, that's what I call easy problems. If I was Prime Minister, I still might be alive and in the job after a year. I might. And then we go to the more difficult problems. But these will still be possible if we are really serious that this is a big, big problem. So this gets a bit technical now. The first one, carbon tax via credit card. What I mean by that is that if you use a lot of carbon, whether it be through heating, travel, whatever it is, ultimately you should pay, in my opinion. We call that the polluter pays in the jargon. And if anyone has said that's completely impossible, it's not, because Canada, which is a similar wealthy country to ours, is implemented and doing just that. It will not happen tomorrow, it will not happen next month. It may take a few years to come in, but they are moving their taxation system so that the polluter pays, and I can't see any way around that. Of course there will have to be exceptions for hospitals and the elderly and the poor, that goes without saying. But in general, if we can get to the polluter pay, and it might take 10 to 20 years to do, but I think we should. I think we should rethink our food policy. And what I mean is that what we eat and where it comes from. If you think about it, it's crazy eating apples that have come from South Africa, for example, when they could be grown on multiple apple trees in this country. Now in the Bournemouth area we're very lucky because of George Cadbury, a lot of houses do have apple trees. And some have fallen down and some of them will die, but some of them are still flourishing. I see no reason at all why we couldn't have a mass policy of growing apple trees and stopping importing of apples. We talked about carbon trading already. And thirdly, what are the really, really, really difficult problems to solve? And in this field, everybody always comes back to one problem, and it's called world population. Is this a problem or is this not a problem? And if it is a problem, what can we do about it? Well, at the individual level, of course, we can do lots about it, because if we are in a stable relationship and wish to have children, then we can decide to have fewer children than we might have had 30 years ago, 60 years ago, 100 years ago. But of course we are only 1% of the world's population, so whatever happened in this country is not going to make a huge effect to the world population. We could do something in this country by limiting access to the welfare state for large families, whatever large means. And I'm not going to get in this before anybody starts throwing down arrows at me. And of course we've got to allow for things like twins and triplets, and nobody wants to have twins or triplets, and sometimes they just happen. That's all detail. But ultimately we could say, well, somebody with 9 children, for example, a friend of mine does have 9 children, and he and his wife are not Catholic. It's a genuine choice on their behalf. One the government of the gays should say, I'm sorry, Mr. X and Y, you know, I just don't think you're going to fork out 9 times as much for your family as we do for a single child family. But what about world population? Is it important? And here are the numbers, and you can't, a scientist, you cannot argue with the numbers. These are the truths. The population 50 years ago, 53 years ago, was 3.3 billion. It's now 7.3 billion. It might be as much as 11 billion by the end of this century. Is this a problem, or is it not a problem? And I'm going to be totally honest and say I am split on this issue, and there are 2 completely different viewpoints. There's what I'm going to call the David Attenborough viewpoint. I'm sure many of you will see David Attenborough on TV. He's a very, very eminent neuroscientist who takes the view, of course it's a problem. And if we've got 11 billion on our planet producing CO2 and methane, of course it's going to have more effect than if our population is 7 billion. That's one point of view. On the other point of view, there is the equally strong argument that said, yes, but hang on, these 11 billion are not going to all be in the rich West. The growth is going to be in Africa, Asia, not so much China, but the underdeveloped parts of the world, and those parts of the world are going to be able to climb out of poverty with more people to help do that. And I think both arguments are incredibly strong arguments. I do not know what the answer is, except that potentially there might be a problem. But I have one take-home message for everybody here. And I'm sorry, I'm going on 10 minutes longer than I thought I would. Science can help, it always does. If you look back in history and you see what science has done, whether it's medicine, whether it's landing people on the moon, whatever it is, solving the AIDS problem as it has done over the last 30 years. Scientists are amazing people. I'm not talking about myself, I'm a very humble scientist, but they are, it is amazing people if you set your mind to it. And I have no doubt at all that we will, over 50 to 100 years, be able to solve this problem if scientists are trusted. And that is all I have to say. I do apologise for going on for 14 minutes, and thank you for being so patient and putting up with me.
So shall we just all put our hands together and say thank you very much. Now with maybe just one question, you might have a burning question in your mind. If you've got to have a burning question that you'd like to ask Richard before we go, this is your moment to ask a question. If you've got anything that you'd like to know about, because this was a lot of information to take on board. But thank you very much, and it was so interesting. I heard Richard speak before, and he really inspired me because you put down very complicated facts that are a little overwhelming into bite-sized chunks that maybe we can think about. So, any questions that you've got?
Let me just ask the children in the front 2 rows. Are you aware of this climate change issue? Do you think it is a problem? Good.
And how many of you learn some of this at school? Put your hands up if you do. If you've heard sort of a bit. Not much. I think that's quite. I think that's quite honest. Because I don't think we do. I think that was what I think is
really honest to say to you something that teachers, and there may be some teacher among them who will crucify me for saying this, but there is no right and wrong in this. And you can have 100 people given a half-hour talk on a subject, all committed, and they will tell you totally different things, and all this is my spin on this subject and how I see the problem. And I've not come to this immediately. It has been a slow evolution over 20 years, and I have changed my mind on certain issues. But that's the way.
But I think what you've said and what's so important is that we have the evidence that the world is heating up, that carbon dioxide is the thing that is problematic, and that we've got too much waste. We create too many things that we don't recycle, which is why we're doing this today. But let me ask the young people here, is there anything you take out of this that you think you can go away and go, I can do something about this today? Go on then.
Well, I
What do
could
you-
ask my parents if they could change the light.
Fantastic. You could ask your parents if you could change the lights to
Or
what?
stop using so much heat.
Or stop using so much heat. Fantastic. Go on.
I could ask my parents to take Saturday to school, walk to school instead.
Walk to school, because that's
Or
such a
jump
big
on cycle
issue in the morning, isn't it? Walk to school or
Like cycle to school.
cycle to school. Fantastic. Anybody else got another idea? It was something very simple we could all do. What could we do in the house?
Turn down the heating and wear more.
Turn down the heating and wear more clothes. Isn't that a simple thing we could all do? Yeah?
My mum always says that.
Does she? She's already on the ball. Yeah?
When we go on walks, we can pick up rubbish.
You could pick up rubbish, exactly that, and like do that.
Or when we walk to school.
And sorry,
I've done that before. I've seen a glass bottle on the floor and I picked it up.
fantastic.
And I walked all the way home. to
With the
put
glass
it in
bottle. Incredible. Well done you. Fantastic.
I think these are all
Good things.
really good ideas, and no one individual will solve this problem.
No.
But if 64 million people in this country, if they each did one little thing each, whatever it is, and it will be different from you, from you, from you, from me, because we're different people, it could be that we might make a difference. Having said all of that, I do actually think the United Kingdom is well ahead of many other countries.
But we could do more, you know, and that's the reason for the day that the recycling is something we don't do so well. So actually, compared to Germany, we don't do it as well as Germany. And so it's something we can all do and have to remember to do, because it needs a bit of effort, which is what we've thought about today. And the other thing that we've thought about today, which is what we are doing, is we're eating more vegetables. Now, not everybody, it's a choice, but there is a big issue about how much food we all eat, the packaging and the meat and the effort that goes into that, and we do need to think about that. So at least having vegetables today, if you don't like them, it's going to be a big excitement because somebody's been making them, but you can think about having vegetables one day in a week. That's what India, sometimes in India, I've really appreciated that when I've travelled to India. You know, they have, in some families, they make it a weekly thing. One day we'll have maybe Rajan knows that, but you know, people do say, okay, we have a veggie day, don't we? And then they have their other meat. So you could increase the amount of vegetables you eat.
I mean, I'm going to be totally honest, and people are asking, okay, Richard, what do you do? You be honest, put your back against that wall and tell me what you do. So I'll tell you what I think I've done, and I don't think this is, I think this is truthful. I eat less meat. I cycle much more. When I've just retired from the university, but when I had to travel a lot, in the old days I just used to get in a car and drive. Now automatically I take the train if at all possible. I'm delighted that I will get my universal bus pass in 18 months' time if the government of the day has not scrapped it. And I will use buses because I think probably long term I will stop driving, perhaps when I'm 80, if I'm still alive, rather than 90. So those are the things I personally do. It's not very much at all.
And I have to add to me, I also this summer put solar panels on our house, and I was very excited because when I was sitting there going, oh, we've done something different, and actually seen if we can use ordinary solar panel to help reduce the way in which we use electricity.
Have any of you guys been to Cotteridge meeting? You have?
Yeah?
Good. So at Cotteridge, you may not know it, but on the classrooms, which are fairly shallow roofs, so you don't see them very easily other than the garden, we've got a huge bank of solar panels. And I was treasurer of that meeting for 6 years, and that was just about when I started, so I know the numbers. It was in 2010, it was very easy to get big government grants. So I think we got half the cost of installation. And we now get about £4,000 a year. That's a lot of money.
Back from
Yes.
from the grid.
Yes.
£4,000.
£4,000.
Amazing.
And what is more, nobody can touch that for 25 years.
I'm going for Cotteridge, that's what you want me to do. So on that positive note, I think we should all thank Richard very much for your very informative talk. Fantastic. Thank you very much. Really helpful. We've all got thumbs up for things that we can go and do today. And we've also got a moment now where you can go outside and run around and get yourself a little bit cleared up.
If any of you are particularly interested in it, get on to your parents or your guardian or grandparents in a few weeks' time, because these slides and this talk, if the camera video has worked, will be on this, either the Footstep or the CEQ website in shape or form. Okay?
So you'll be famous. There you go. Anyway, big thanks to John for doing it. Big thanks again to Richard for helping us learn more about it, and a little break.